Slow and steady. That's pretty thick. Not sure why Hamilton's not out to scrape. Probably slammed. That's pretty slick. There's a little bit of drifting on these turns. Just gotta take it slow. Hopefully there's not much traffic, not that many accidents. And you folks should see the Great Miami. It's all frozen. It's 24 degrees outside.
Morning.
Morning.
What can I do for you?
I'll do 2 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits.
Anything else?
One one bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit with just without the egg.
All right.
A sausage McMuffin with egg.
Oh, with egg.
Yeah.
All right.
And 4 hash browns.
All right.
And that's it.
Your total for today is going to be $18.17. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm still sleeping. And I need water. The air in the house is dry. Ugh. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's an idiot. Almost rear-ended me. Man. Didn't get to this area. It's pretty slick. I'm just drifting around. I guess our guys didn't come around scraping yet. Okay, where should I park? Mr. Franklin's in my spot. Let's see. Let's park next to this pickup. I think I see the line.
are from Taiwan, China, Thailand, and Vietnam. Josie Huang of member station LAist follows up on their year of recovery.
On the night of January 21st, a gunman named Hu Can Tran showed up at the Stardance Ballroom studio and fired on a crowd celebrating the Lunar New Year. Lloyd Gok sought cover as his friends fell around him.
I was about 10 feet away from the shooter. I just hid out under the table, so the bullet just went by me.
But the gunman wasn't done. He drove a few miles to Alhambra, where there was another popular ballroom called Lai Lai. It was kind of a sister studio that the same crowd frequented. Brandon Tsai, whose family owns the studio, was closing up when he saw the shooter enter the lobby with a gun.
Within the first 3 seconds, I processed that I must do something to save everybody's lives.
Tsai wrestled the gun away from the shooter, who took off. Tran was found dead the next day of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He'd been part of the local ballroom dance scene, but police still have not specified a motive. As the community held vigils and politicians called for stricter gun control in the wake of the shooting, survivors found solace in one another. Lloyd Gok says a group of about 40 of them messaged over WeChat and shared meals and tears.
Because our life is never the same. Never the same since that day.
The Stardance Ballroom studio, where the shooting took place, closed permanently. The local dance community had been so traumatized that Brandon Tsai didn't think they'd come back and dance at Lai Lai. Some instructors have left, taking students with them, but Tsai says most folks have returned.
I was so glad that they came back with a big smile on their faces, and that in itself was therapy, because just getting connected to one another again at a physical location and recounting the situation, it was quite therapeutic for everybody.
Tsai says he wants the dance studio to continue to be a place of healing. As the shooting's anniversary approached, Lai Lai hosted a community event where they offered free dance lessons.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, relax your hips.
Tsai also invited mental health clinicians to that event. Among them, Sheila Wu, who directs mental health centers in LA County, catering to the Asian community.
For people to come back to the location of what happened, I think it will trigger certain emotions in some.
Wu says the event also provided a chance to offer counseling to an older immigrant crowd that's resistant to seeking help. She says that for many immigrants, there's this mentality of,
we have to be strong, we have to be resilient, and we cannot be weak because we have to succeed, right?
Some survivors like Lloyd Gok have been receptive to counseling, but he says what has helped him cope with his trauma the most has been returning to the dance floor.
Pretty much you don't have to think about anything, you know? You just concentrate on the next turn with your partner. All your worries goes away for that, few minutes that you're dancing.
Gok approaches fellow survivor Hattie Pang, who's wearing a flowy mini skirt and sparkly headband. She started dancing again a few months after the shooting. She's now back to coaxing friends to dance the waltz, her favorite. Lila Lila, she says in Mandarin, meaning come come. Same words as the name of the studio. And Gok does. Pang takes his hand and they dip and weave across the floor. For NPR News, I'm Josie Huang in Alhambra.
Next week, New Hampshire holds its presidential primaries. It's a state that has been devastated by opioid addiction. President Biden is not campaigning in the state because of rule changes for the Democratic primary calendar, so his views on this topic have been largely absent from the campaign trail. But Republicans have been talking about it a lot, and their response to the crisis has largely focused on cutting off the supply of illegal drugs.
We go and we say to them, we're going to end normal trade relations with you until you stop killing Americans.
If you give the death penalty to drug dealers, you will have no more problems.
We're going to shoot them stone cold dead right at that southern border.
That was former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former President Donald Trump, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Some New Hampshire residents say the candidates aren't talking enough about treatment and recovery. We're joined now by Paul Kuno-Booth with New Hampshire Public Radio. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Juana.
Paul, so all eyes are on the state of New Hampshire ahead of next week's primaries, and we just heard a snippet of what Republican candidates have been saying across the state. Tell us a bit about what you've been hearing.
Yeah, so they often bring up fentanyl when talking about the southern border, linking the issue to fears about unauthorized immigration. Now, I should note, federal immigration officials say the vast majority of drugs coming over the border are actually being smuggled through legal points of entry, mostly by U.S. citizens and other legal residents, not by migrants crossing without authorization. Nikki Haley has also called for putting more pressure on China, which is a major source of the chemicals used to make fentanyl. But people like Teresa Gladstone, who lives in Concord, New Hampshire, say they want to hear more about how the candidates plan to help people experiencing addiction.
I think they're just throwing stuff out there to try to appease people at this point, and that's not what we need. We need somebody that really is taking it seriously and has sat down and thought about a plan.
She lost her grandson to an overdose in 2020, and she now says she wants to hear more about things like expanding access to treatment and preventing people from dying of overdoses.
Well, as we were just hearing from Teresa Gladstone, this is a personal issue for so many people. Are any of the candidates speaking to those very personal concerns?
Well, Haley did visit a treatment center this week to talk more about investments in recovery and mental health, but the issue still seems to be getting a lot less attention than it did in 2016. That was the last time we had a lot of Republican presidential candidates campaigning here, and, several of them spoke really personally about family members who've been struggling with addiction and sort of put forward more detailed plans to address the issue.
I know from spending time in the state that New Hampshire was hit hard by the opioid crisis early on, but I'm curious, how is it impacting the state today?
Well, it continues to have a huge impact here. Drug overdose deaths had started to go down before the pandemic, but they've since gone up again, and we're losing more than 400 people every year to this. That's a lot for a small state like New Hampshire. Access to treatment has gotten better over time, but some people are still struggling to get the help they need. That can be especially true in rural areas, where someone might be 30 minutes or an hour from the nearest treatment provider or recovery center.
For people who have been affected by this issue in New Hampshire, as you've been talking to them, how are they feeling about what the candidates have been saying?
Well, I spoke to a couple advocates who've lost loved ones to drug overdoses. For the most part, they say this issue isn't getting the attention it needs, and they'd like the candidates to offer more comprehensive solutions. One of them is Doug Griffin from Newton, New Hampshire. He says the candidates talk a lot about the supply of drugs coming from outside the country, but they're not really addressing the reasons people here at home are turning to drugs in the first place.
The whole issue starts with mental health and prevention. We could stop this problem if we were to address it at an early age.
Griffin's daughter, Courtney, died of an overdose when she was 20, and he's saying there we really need to focus on intervening early in young people's lives so they don't turn to substance use in the first place.
That's New Hampshire Public Radio's Paul Kuno Booth. Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
4 years after the first U.S. case of COVID was confirmed, the pandemic for many can feel pretty distant.
We heal. We don't experience it. We take it seriously. We think we have not as a public done anywhere near enough. We hope to turn that around.
I'm Scott Detrow. The latest on long COVID and All Things Considered from NPR News. Tomorrow at 5 on 91.7 WVXU.
Support comes from Design to Market Home Staging, offering personal service to prepare homes for the real estate market. Specializing in staging consultation, contractor coordination, and vacant staging to ensure homes are fresh and up to date, helping to catch the eye of home buyers. Details and testimonials at designtomarket.com.
Montgomery Road closed east and westbound between Quatman Avenue and Cypress Way because of an earlier wreck that brought down a utility pole and some wires.
All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Juana Summers.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. As the pool of Republican candidates not named Donald Trump shrinks, who will benefit, Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley?
She is our last best chance, but a very good person to vote for. I think she'd do a great job.
First, the news.
Live from NPR News in Culver City, California, I'm Dwayne Brown. Posts to social media claim the Israeli military has exhumed bodies from a graveyard in Gaza. NPR's Jeff Brumfield has more on the allegations.
Videos posted to social media show extensive damage at the main graveyard of the city of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Bulldozer tracks are visible, as are broken gravestones and open graves. The Israeli military did not comment directly on the incident, but in a statement responding to the allegations, it says it does conduct operations to recover the bodies of hostages when it has, quote, critical intelligence about where they are. In such cases, it says, it removes any remains thought to be hostages to conduct forensic analysis. The military said it would return any bodies if it found they were not hostages. Jeff Brumfield, NPR News.
A Boeing 747 cargo plane made an emergency landing in Miami late last night after suffering an engine fire. NPR's Joe Rose tells us the plane returned to the airport safely shortly after takeoff.
The Atlas Air flight was headed to Puerto Rico from Miami International Airport with 5 crew members on board when it was forced to return to Miami because of an engine fire. A widely shared video on social media shows flames shooting out of the left wing of the aircraft while in flight. The Boeing 747 was operated by Atlas Air, which carries freight for delivery companies including DHL and FedEx. The Federal Aviation Administration says a post-flight inspection showed a softball-sized hole above the engine. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
Sales of existing homes fell by 1% last month, capping off the slowest year for home sales in nearly 3 decades. Overall, though, home sales were down nearly 19% last year as rising mortgage rates put homes out of reach for many. On the upside, mortgage rates have now fallen to their lowest level in nearly 8 months. This is NPR.
Good evening. It's 5:33 and 18 degrees in Cincinnati. This is 91.7 WVXU. I'm Bill Reinhardt. You've probably heard the saying, don't crowd the plow. But State House correspondent Joe Ingles reports some Ohioans apparently aren't getting the message.
The Ohio Department of Transportation's Matt Bruning says there have been 12 crashes involving snowplows already